Furthermore, the details that are given are so rich. Anytime somebody makes up a myth, this guy he died and then he wasn't dead anymore. And they can be extremely vague. Why? Because you can't get...
You know, honey, I can't think of a more vague story than fucking Robin Hood or King Arthur. Can you think of a more vague story? Oh, well, there's this, was he a fox? He might have been a fox. He was living in the woods and he went and fought in the Crusades and, then he got sent back for some fucking reason. And he come back and he was really pissed off at the law. And so he fucked around with the law a little bit and then he married a princess. That's Robin Hood. Is that really an accurate representation of Robin Hood? I just did exactly what he did to the Gospels here. Actually, I feel like I gave more information. You did. But my point stands is that it's ridiculous to say that fictional stories are vague. Who's going to pick up a fiction like narrative, like a novel or something like that? And it's like 3 pages long and it's the vaguest story that you've ever heard. Nobody's going to read that book. In fact, fictional stories often have vastly more details than like historical accounts of things. Like you're not going to know how many buttons were on, some general's shirt when he ordered the attack on bumfuck nowhere, right? But in a fictional story, you could talk about all 72 of his buttons quivered with the anxious anxiety of a terrorized duck or something like that. It's a good thing I don't write fiction. Fictional stories often have vastly more details than like historical accounts.
Busted, but when you've got a lot of details, that tells the reader, either they're a really intricate liar or this really happened from Nathan.
Okay, so first off, he's either a liar or they were telling the truth. Like, I've never heard such a blatant false dichotomy. It's not that they were lying. They could have truly believed that these are things that happened to Jesus. But just because they believe this happened to Jesus doesn't mean that it's actually true. And just because they can write a nice, pretty story around these events doesn't mean that it's false. So I feel like this is an argument that doesn't help either case, either that Jesus wasn't real or that Jesus was real or his crucifixion happened or didn't happen. Like, I don't think that really helps us out in either case.
The Nebuznets, first century fiction was not written in today's style of realistic narrative. There is no mistaking ancient myth with real history because ancient fiction never wasted time on unnecessary details that didn't drive the plot or promote a character's development.
How long is the Iliad? Yeah, the Iliad's kind of long. So going back to this slide right here, I'm wondering, can anybody name a detail in the Gospels that doesn't drive the plot or promote a character's development? What on earth in the Bible is in there that doesn't do one of those things? And even if it doesn't do one of those things, it could just be there for literary color, right? Like, it could just be there in order to make the story better. So I don't see how this point at all makes any kind of difference as far as whether or not the story's true.
Go ahead and read any one of the mythological accounts of some sort of divine human being, and they do not have the specificity of the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
How is it specific? Like, the resurrection of Jesus? How is that shit specific at all? Like, it's really not specific. Let me, actually, you know what I could do is I could bring up, Mark 16. Okay, so Jesus has risen. When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of Jesus, and Salome brought spices that they might go to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, who will roll away the stone away from the entrance of the tomb? But when they looked up, they saw the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. Don't be alarmed! Shit. He called them out beforehand. He said, you are looking for Jesus the Nazarene who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. see the place where they laid him, go tell his disciples that he's going ahead of you to Galilee. Trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. I don't see this as having a lot of like descriptive stuff in it. He acts like it's very descriptive, but I don't think that we really get all that descriptive until, let's see, maybe John's account. Hold on. Let's see, the empty tomb. It gets a little bit more elaborate as John goes. Typically, the earliest source is going to be your most the one that's closest to if the events actually happened. That's going to be your best account for that. But as you see, as we get into the 2nd century with John, we have like an elaborate story being told. Using his criteria, that would mean that John's gospel is actually the more accurate one compared to Mark's gospel, who's a lot more vague. But in reality, what we have is by the 2nd century, the myth of Jesus and his resurrection being fully fleshed out, having a lot of different supporting details and not facts, but supporting detailed information and stuff. It's totally opposite as to what he's saying here.